So the next bit of content that we're looking at comes from Morphologist, and not a very long video, goes for about 7.5 minutes, and his video was titled, "I don't hate Star Citizen, but ... across to here. So yeah, this is Morphologist's video. The thumbnail for the video grabbed my attention, but I can't remember the word that was on the thumbnail. I think it was negativity or negative or something like that. But it was interesting to me because it's like there's been a lot of negativity building up around Star Citizen, especially when 4.0 went to all waves in the PTU. And I'm not surprised that there's more people now building up on that negativity towards Star Citizen. In fact, we saw the massive wave of negativity about pyro and griefers and murder hobos and pirates and people dying at outposts and there not being enough protection and the faction system not working. And just because pyro's lawless doesn't mean there aren't rules and shit like that. It's like, because pyro was the new content, everybody wants to explore it, right? They're all going over there, they all want to experience pyro. I've been saying it all stream, but the whole mentality of, while we're on this road to pyro, that all the PvPs and murder hobos and griefers will go to pyro and everybody else that wants to be safe and play safe will stay in Stanton. You know, that's been the case, except all the fucking idiots that want to be safe in Stanton just followed us over into pyro too. And now they're complaining that they're getting killed and griefed and pirated in the system that they were telling us for years that that's what was going to happen there. Because we'd all go there. That's why I believe in this anti-PvP movement that is happening amongst the community, where they're trying to do what they did to Elite Dangerous and take the fucking danger out. Anyway, I'm interested to hear what Morphologist has to say, because apparently he doesn't hate Star Citizen, but there's something else.
Covering Star Citizen can sometimes be a bit of a challenge. It has its ups and downs. Sometimes patches come out and they're in a really tough state and makes it really difficult to cover the game as a content creator for it. And I try to be straightforward with you guys when I make videos that there are problems with Star Citizen if it's relevant to the subject of the video that I'm making. So when I make videos about, say, spaceships for an Architect Reviews, the subject is about the design of a ship in the game and not necessarily about how well the game runs, and this can confuse a lot of people. If you just watch my Architect Review series, you might think that there's no problems with the game whatsoever, that it runs perfectly, it's perfectly smooth, but that is not the case, and it's not my intention to make anybody think that the game is perfect from watching those videos. Again, it's a video focused on just the way the ship is designed and not about whether or not the game is in a playable state. And I try to make that very clear in my other videos when I talk about the game. And this, unfortunately, can confuse a lot of people, thinking that I'm somebody who's very positive about the game, or that I'm somebody who's very negative if they suddenly see a gameplay-focused video where I'm talking about some critical issues, because in that context, talking about the issues with Star Citizen becomes a very relevant topic to discuss. So it
just sounds like he's trying to justify, hey guys, I have different opinions about Star Citizen at different points in time, and when I talk about it, it doesn't mean that I hate or love the game in either way.
Depending on your preference for content and what videos are suggested to you, you could see me as somebody who's very positive about Star Citizen or somebody who's very negative, or in the worst case scenario, you see both and think that I'm flip-flopping between being positive and negative about the game. Now, I definitely won't deny here that I can get emotional, and I let that come through my videos. I think that's part of just being somebody who's invested in a game that they like. You get emotional about it because you're invested emotionally in it. I want to see Star Citizen succeed, so when it's not succeeding, I feel a bit frustrated, as I think anybody normally would if they care about a subject. But my problem is that I'm not always conscious of the way that can come off to you guys, and you can misunderstand my perspective. So to clarify here, my perspective on Star Citizen is that I want to see it succeed. I love this game, and I will continue to love this game because it's got a scope that includes so much of what I want to see out of a space game. Something that I'm sorry to say that even now more than ever is probably never going to happen outside of an independent publisher funded in the way that Star Citizen is funded. But how somebody shows care for something that they care about varies from personality to personality. Now, my background, as you guys already know, because I talk about it in my videos, is architecture. And in the field, what you do when you give feedback typically is to provide constructive criticism, elaborating why something isn't successful, why it's not working in the way that the designer intended, and then give some possible constructive feedback for how it can be improved. So rather than saying this ship sucks in the context of Star Citizen, you might instead say that the way that you enter the ship doesn't seem to be that intuitive. There are problems with entry, maybe that there's only one entry to the ship and that could cause problems logistically for getting on and off of it in an emergency, or for when you're in a bottleneck situation and somebody's waiting for you at that exit and wants to kill you. There's a lot of ways to approach giving constructive feedback, but all it is basically just elaborating on why something is bad, articulating why you feel a certain way about something, and then providing some options for how they can solve it. Whether or not they take those options is not important. It's just to help them start thinking critically about how to improve it. If at all,
Sounds like that's exactly what he's doing here with this video, where he's trying to justify why he has different opinions. And yeah, it's like, I guess he's not comfortable with being the type of person where he'll just say, express his opinion and just go, well, if you don't like it, fuck off. Need a new way to say the way I flip-flop? Go through ChatGPT, it might give you something. The whole reactions and rants thing that I do is because of a video that Morphologist made where he was calling for the A2 to be nerfed. And, you know, the example of why it should be nerfed is because they were at Jumptown, you know, Morphologist and all the people that he was at the stream with, and they're all being fucking tourists. And Morphologist was in the Centurion, and they had, I think, a couple of ships up in the sky, but they weren't even that, you know, like, switched on. And this one player came in an A2, and instead of people going, they're not part of our group, shoot it down, this bomber is coming towards us, and instead of everybody like treating it as a threat, it got ignored. Morph starts shooting at it because they realize, oh shit, he's coming in for a bombing run, but it's too late, and he's upset that the A2 is too strong and it needs to be nerfed. And I pretty much went ham on it. Like, for starters, the group that he went there with, they're acting like tourists. The A2 does need to be iterated on. The pilot should not be controlling the bombs. It should be a bombardier controlling that. Pilot flies, bombardier drops the bombs. But it doesn't need to have its armor reduced. It doesn't need to be made slower. It doesn't need to be made harder to use. They had more than enough people to destroy that A2, more than enough ships, more than enough firepower there. They were just all fucking idiots that sat around with their thumbs up their asses and got bombed for it. They went to Jumptown and treated it like a tourist location as opposed to a PvP zone that it is. And it's shit that somebody showed up and, you know, bombed them the way that they did, but fucking, you've got to expect that sort of shit to happen, especially as you're going, you know, like becoming more noticed around the community. And when you have a larger following, you have a larger amount of influence. You can wield that influence. I think Morph here, like this video, as I said before, just comes across as, yeah, I have different opinions on things. And he just doesn't seem to be comfortable in his own skin, just going, this is my opinion. Don't like it, fucking get fucked. Yeah, well, that's just it. Their total, like playing Star Citizen, streaming Star Citizen, you'd be surprised that you don't really get stream sniped that often. The bigger group, like the bigger content creators, even they don't get hit that often in Star Citizen. It does happen, but it's one of those things where it's like, if you're playing with enough people, you can normally deal with it, and you do have to play aggressively. Like, you have to treat everybody as a threat. Unless they're in comms with you, like, nah, they're a threat. Hell, even if you know them, sometimes you'll treat them as a threat anyway because you know what they're like and they're just going to try and fuck with you. And they're not watching the stream, you just know what they're like. Yeah, like there's a point, I believe, that with Star Citizen, it'll become less conducive to be streaming this game. So eventually, the gameplay streams that I do will probably die off, or they'll change to not show what I'm doing with the Mongrel Horde, and instead show other gameplay stuff that I do. Like probably just jumping in Star Marine or Arena Commander, you know, things where it's like, doesn't impact the entire group, which is unfortunate because, you know, the amount of gameplay stuff that we get up to is really cool. But that's what the YouTube channel's for. And Amiro, I know it took them 1 hour to prepare and it got undone in 3 seconds, but if they cared that much about all their time and effort being undone in such a quick amount of time, they should have had better security. All right, let's keep watching, listen to Morph pretty much try and justify his opinion.
Well, they think that your criticism is valid, because of course criticism is an opinion and not everybody is going to share that opinion. Now personally, whether or not I think my opinion is important isn't that important. I hope that you guys think it's valid, and I try to provide good feedback to support my argument so that you can make that decision. And if you keep watching, I hope that that means that you think that my arguments are convincing. But I definitely don't personally think that I'm always right, or that only I have the solution, and yada yada yada. It really is just an opinion, and whether or not you agree is something that I invite. I like people having discussions in my comment section, and I always invite it. And I think everybody's opinion is valid. Not all opinions are right, but I think opinions are valid. Certainly my opinions in the past have not always been right. But I try to approach videos as either glass half full or glass half empty, depending on whether or not I feel in recent time that CIG has been giving me reason to look at things optimistically or pessimistically. So for example, if they've continued to deliver patches that have not met expectations or missed deadlines, then I don't think that it's necessary to approach the video as a glass half full, as it could be somewhat destructive or counterproductive to always give CIG the benefit of the doubt. Sometimes I think you need to be a bit more on the critical side, this is again my opinion, to provide appropriate constructive criticism. And recently it really has felt like CIG have not been delivering on goals that they've set for themselves and shared with us. And so my reaction to that is to be critical and honest with how they've not been delivering, and to be a bit more on the pessimistic side, as they've not given me reason to give them the benefit of the doubt.
We literally just got server meshing, the biggest technological hurdle that CIG needed to overcome for Star Citizen, for the persistent universe. We literally just got it. I don't know if he's going to explain the context behind his statement there, but him sitting there going, oh, well, CIG, isn't hitting their goals and not sharing with it. Like, holy shit, dude. Like, we just got server meshing. Sure, they haven't bloody hit all their fucking gameplay markers. We're still dealing with a shit fight, environment where sometimes the elevator doesn't arrive, sometimes the elevator doesn't work. Sometimes you'll end up in a bloody hangar, a ghost hangar, where somebody's able to interact with you. Like, we're still in that pre-alpha environment. We haven't reached the feature complete stage yet. But to sit there and say, oh yeah, CIG's not sharing their goals, and the goals that they are sharing with us, they're not hitting it. It's like, fuck man, you've been cracking this game for years. This is part of the course for what CIG is doing. Like, this is nothing new, but that's game development, it's software development. Like, you come up with a plan and you try and execute on it as best as you can. This isn't like building a fucking house where there's a formula to it. Like, they're complaining that they're not hitting their goals when we just literally got the biggest piece of fucking tech. The biggest piece of tech that actually caused the number iteration to go up by one, might I add. Where we went from the 3.x series to the 4.x series. I don't know, like, fucking if that doesn't mean anything to you, then I fucking don't know what else this CIG is going to be able to do to make you happy, because over the next 12 to 24 months, this game is going to go up and down. It's going to be a fucking roller coaster. Not only from the gameplay of, fighting other players, but fighting the servers, fighting the tech that's been introduced. But it's going to get better. It's going to keep going better. From where we started to where we are now, it's like night and fucking day. It just took way longer to get here.
I've covered Star Citizen for many years now, and I've been around long enough to remember when they first talked about Pyro over 5 years ago, to see it delivered now 5 years later, far, far behind the schedule that I'm sure that they set internally. And even Chris Roberts himself admitted in his letter from the chairman that this took a lot longer than they expected. And worse yet, what they delivered wasn't exactly a true live experience. They definitely cut out a ton of features that they had originally planned for it, and we don't know when they're going to be bringing them in because we still don't have a timeline. So again, I personally feel like I have good reason to be more on the glass half empty side of the criticism that I give. Perhaps one of the biggest things that drives me to want to continue to provide critical feedback and not just focus on, say, ship reviews is because that my videos have brought a lot of people into the game, and their experiences, judging by their comments in said videos, are not matching up to the expectation I seem to have unintentionally set in those videos. And before you say, why don't you just talk about the bugs in every video, again, it would feel really weird to start talking about bugs in a video that's about design, and furthermore, bugs change from patch to patch. In 2 or 3 months, the video will still be relevant, but the discussion on bugs will be completely irrelevant. And in fact, could be kind of destructive if I'm telling people to avoid an issue that no longer exists, painting Star Citizen in a more negative light than it should be. So it's quite the conundrum. Now, I know I probably shouldn't feel personally responsible for people spending money on Star Citizen because of my videos, but I can't help it. I want to represent you guys and make sure you're getting a good experience if I'm making a video that sells you on the game, which again, that's not my intention. I'm not being paid by CIG to sell anything to anybody. CIG has never paid me a dime to make a video on Star Citizen to get you guys to buy anything. I'm here making videos because I like making videos on Star Citizen. It's a subject I care about.
Also makes
but
more
I've
money
ranted
from
long
it
enough.
too.
I think this has gotten my point across, or at least I hope it has. If you guys have any questions, if you didn't understand something, please let me know down in the comment section. I will be replying to you guys as much as I can. But otherwise, I'm moving this week to a new house in Taiwan. I'm moving back to the US, sorry guys. So I'm gonna be down for just a little bit before I move. And once I get back up, I'm looking forward to showing you guys the new room, the new studio. It's really, really cool. So
finally someone to blame why you're spending so much in Star Citizen. So yeah, that just seemed like a video from Morph just saying, yeah guys, I have different opinions on different things, and the reason why I talk about things in different ways is based on the state of the game and if I'm happy with it or not. Like his last point though, feeling like he's misrepresented the game to his audience. I kind of see it in that sort of way, but I believe I need to check his channel. But I'm pretty sure he's done like new player guides. You know, and his point about, yeah, there it is. New player guide to Star Citizen on his channel. Made a month ago, 168,000 views. How long does it go for? Nearly 50 minutes, right? I haven't watched it, but I imagine he doesn't mention many of the bugs there. And this is actually one of the benefits of doing these streams, you know, when you're doing gameplay streams, is when people come in and they ask questions, you can discuss those things, discuss the bugs. Hey, these are the problems that you're having. But Morphologist is in a position, like I can range, you know, anywhere between 30 to 40 viewers per stream. That's an average at the moment for me, especially for gameplay stuff. You know, Morph is getting, you know, 100 or more, and his audience is a lot more diverse than the audience that I've built. So him and his audience, he's going to end up with more people coming to watch him stream, and he's going to be in a position where he's not going to be answering questions about bugs and things like that, you know, workarounds, and kind of what we had at the start of this stream where somebody was asking about the game and when the next discounted packages were coming out. So he might talk about it with some people, but most of the time he'd probably just skip over it because that's not what he's trying to do. Now, the point that I'm trying to get around to though is like, he has the ability to talk about bugs, and him sitting there going, oh, it's a bit weird to make a video about the bugs. It's like, well, not really. If you're talking about some points of frustration, like, let's have a look at his YouTube channel here. Transition back here quickly and do this. Yeah, it's not really working out the way that I was hoping, but we'll make it work. Alright, Pyro has some epic missions, right? In this video, it's about gameplay, the missions that you can do. He can talk about bugs that he encounters there. You know, like, hey, don't be surprised if you're running along and you accidentally fall through the terrain. I was doing a mission at this outpost and this is a bug that I encountered. Here's the issue counter report. By the way, this was, once we were able to get things working, this is, you know, how it was going. Talking about how that, you know, the issues that he encountered and how he overcame them, if he was able to, how he worked around it. You know, the new player guide to Star Citizen, like there should be a section where you're talking about the bugs that you may encounter. And people may sit there and go, oh, well, I'm not going to play this game yet. And it's like, good, don't then. If you don't have the stomach for it, you probably shouldn't play it yet. Just watch the videos of that other people are making who are gluttons for punishment, that are willing to go through that pain, create a video and provide entertainment. Nothing wrong with that. If you're interested in playing, you know, like you can, you just got to understand that game's not finished yet. That's something that I don't think that doesn't get through clearly enough to a lot of people. And that's why, like, when people ask me, should I get into this game? And, you know, like, should I buy a package? What should I get? I always tell them, I would not recommend that most people play it. I would say, are you a glutton for punishment? Are you into, like, survival-based games, FPS games? Or what sort of games are you into? But even then, like, I'd point out, like, this game is not finished yet. It's broken at times. You're going to struggle at different times. You know, if the CIG marketing team was watching me talk about Star Citizen with a new person that was interested in playing, they'd be fucking having a heart attack, right? But I prefer to be honest, because I know that there are going to be people out there that have watched us do piracy on our YouTube channel, and they're like, yeah, I want to get into doing that. And like, when we edit the videos, like, we're fortunate enough that we don't encounter a shit ton of bugs. We do encounter them, but we're normally able to work around them. But when we're doing a piracy hit, there normally aren't that many bugs that are happening. And if we do encounter them and like it's unavoidable, like, we'll highlight the bug in the video, but it doesn't happen that often. And a lot of the time we're cutting out dead air or dead spots within a hit because a lot of the time it's boring. Right now, like rock mining when it was at its height, popularity of rock mining was resulted in hits that could take, you know, anywhere up to an hour to do. It'd take an hour to do a hit against a rock, and the 50 minutes of that hit was you staring at it, waiting for it to fucking get ready to load up. We'd always hit it on the third bloody run that it would do, but we'd be ready every time we watched them take off. If they started going, you know, too high, we'd be like, nah, everybody bounce on them. We changed up the way that we did things because we used to do turret monsters where we just sneak on the ship and stow away, but we stopped doing that because it was too easy. It just ended up being one person sneaking onto the ship, waiting in the turret. As soon as the ship took off, getting out of the turret, shoot the pilot in the back of the head, we got the prize. And there'd be like 8 of us there, and one person would get to do the fun part, and we're all just sitting there watching them do the one thing, just grabbing a rock with an SRV. We were doing that before the SRV. What was it, the 890 jump booty magnet? 890 jump had a bug with its hangar deck, the hangar elevator, where the gravity zone for it extended above where it should have. So if you had an 890, you could like fly along, flip upside down, extend out the hangar, and lift a rock onto it. And you are right there, Total. Like, the game is horrible if you don't know the workarounds, or you don't know the ins and outs of the games. But it also takes like resilience to want to keep pushing through. And I've always believed like it's better to play this game with other people so that you can all suffer together to come up with the solutions, but you need to make sure that you find the right people as well, because as you've seen on Spectrum and you'll see in different places within the community, there are a lot of people out there that have a very low tolerance for issues with the game, and instead of coming up with solutions or trying to work out the solutions, they just get upset and they just complain, and then they just end up giving up. There's quite a few people in this community that want the solution spoon-fed to them, and to a certain degree, CIG should be fixing these problems so that they don't exist. The game's still being built, mechanics are still being added. We've got to wait. The new player experience, like CIG's tried helping out with that by creating the guide system so that you can get in contact with a person who wants to help new players, you know, learn the game. CIG rewards them for that, but those new players need to know about that. And CIG has been working on different tools to help educate new players on how to play Star Citizen. Like the new player guides that he actually has, they're actually quite extensive now. Like the written guides, there's a few video guides that they reference from content creators in the community as well that are still relevant. But there's a lot of time, effort, and resources that are put into trying to educate new players and showing them, hey, like these are issues that you could come across, or this is how you do that, this is how you do this, and all that sort of stuff. Guide system is silly as the guide needs to respond in 10 minutes, way too short of a time. Yeah, they did it on purpose though, because some guides were just sitting there. It also helps the player who's requesting the guide to go, all right, well, I didn't get anyone. There is no notification. Well, that's the dumb part then. But yeah, like, Morph, you don't need to apologize for expressing an opinion, and you're not responsible for other people's financial decisions. But it's not weird to talk about the bugs of Star Citizen in your videos. Perfectly fine, perfectly normal, and it'll probably be very helpful to a lot of players considering the reach that you actually have. If you do gameplay videos, if you encounter a bug, talk about it and how you worked around it, and then provide the issue council link as well. If you do that, you'll probably increase your audience more. You'll have a lot more people being more engaged with what you're doing.